I was both super nervous and super excited to boot up Modern Warfare. I'd heard all these things and read all this stuff about how it was so intense and so over the top and so pushing the limits, so in your face, it might not even clear ESRB, doing things that they've never done before. It's so tough to witness. You hear all that and you want to see it for yourself. Plus, I just love campaigns. I love single player. I didn't know I loved Call of Duty single player, but when it wasn't a part of the 2018 package, I realized that I missed it, and missed it a lot. I think the FPS campaign is something that was so prevalent and so popular last gen, but it has slowly faded away in favor of games as services, and we've lost out. But with the return of Borderlands 3 bringing a huge single player, and Modern Warfare bringing an intense pedal to the metal single player, they're back. And I loved this. Really, I think that they did a phenomenal job with the campaign. It's my favorite Call of Duty campaign. Maybe that's a bit blasphemous given that the game just came out less than 24 hours ago, but I really give it top marks. And I think they handled a lot of the intense moments super well. I was worried once I hit Clean House that it was going to be very gratuitous and just shock and awe and try to really get you going and pull a headline from a news station. But I felt like they handled it not only with solid responsibility and maturity, but with so much polish and so much prowess. Like, the game is uncomfortable because it looks and feels so realistic. And I think the more limited engagements that most of the missions place you in, like, that does wonders for the campaign. I really like that they limited the big scale battles to just a few choice moments. I think the fact that you are in tunnels and houses and smaller areas with only a few soldiers, enemies that you have to take out, it makes all the shots count, and it makes the moments count a whole lot more. And did they push the limits? Yeah, I think they did. There's a lot of missions that involve plenty of civilian death, which is always a spooky scenario. The Piccadilly Square mission has a lot going on, and right off the bat, that one's really in your face and ratchets things all the way up to the 11th gear and lets you know, like, they're not pulling any punches. And the aforementioned Clean House is just 6 minutes of hold your breath, white-knuckled thriller. I thought that mission was just the perfect embodiment of what they tried to do with this campaign. So honestly, I was really pleased that they were able to bring something super intense, and it's a little hard to say it's super fun just because it is upsetting at times, it is realistic at times, it does feel dire and heavy, but it's an enjoyable experience because the gameplay is so sound, the graphics are so good, and they were handling things with what I felt was a lot of maturity. And then I hit Hometown, and this is where I feel the game crossed the line and bothered me. And I wish that mission just wasn't in the game, because I think it dilutes what they're trying to do by being too much. There's no need to bring children into this. I think it's okay if you want to have them involved in cutscenes, or I guess in sort of the periphery. And maybe they would say, no, they need to be at the forefront because this is what happens, and war and violence tears families apart, and obviously children are a part of families. But taking on the role of young Farah and avoiding the attacker, I did not like that one bit. And you know, it's me personally, I felt uncomfortable. I don't usually get emotional about games at all. In fact, I'm not one to cry at like the Walking Dead Telltale series or Last of Us. I occasionally get touched and I feel like they're impactful, but it's not like, oh gosh, I'm super moved by games. And yet I felt very uneasy doing what you had to do as the young girl in Hometown. You're scurrying about the floor, hiding under furniture, screaming, yelling. I mean, the dude straight up shoots you if you emerge too early. You can be running through your own house and get murdered by a dude with a gun as what I imagine is like a 7-year-old girl. And that's a lot. Typically, kids are off limits in video games. I remember back in the Fallout 3 days, you just can't do anything to them. Fallout New Vegas, you just can't kill them. They're there, you can't shoot them, and nothing happens. It's very taboo to have violence against children in games, and whether you think that's right or wrong, smart or dumb, that's how it's been. So it does stand out when a game like this goes after it hardcore. And it's not like they're brutally murdering children, but there's another moment towards the very end of the game that I won't spoil because it's in the last mission that also involves a kid, and it's also upsetting. I just don't know that it's necessary to push the line in that exact way. As I mentioned, how they handled things in Clean House, it's realistic, it's brutal, it's in your face, it's violent, but it feels like it's handled responsibly. Infinity Ward clearly felt like it was time to push things, to take them to another level, and for that gutsy move, I give them kudos, because I genuinely don't think they did it just for the headlines. I think they were really trying to craft a very visceral gameplay experience. I just think some things should probably stay sacred, and I wish they would have respected that about violence and children. And yeah, they're not super graphic with the kids, but Farah is being chased, she's stabbing over and over again. There's just a raw sense of emotion and intensity that somehow is exponentially increased because it is a small child in the scenario. And eventually she's picking up a gun and shooting dudes, and they can shoot back, and you can be killed, and I don't know, that's then followed up by a torture scene that technically is more graphic and more troubling, but it doesn't have the same effect because even though it's pixels and X's and O's, it's not a child. Yes, I obviously separate that this is a video game, it's not real life, it's not a real person, nothing is actually happening here, and yet there's something that tugs at my heartstrings, gives me the bad kind of chills, and is uncomfortable to play when you involve young people. And I kind of wish that the game would have avoided that, because I feel like Modern Warfare would have been this almost monumental achievement of saying, hey, we're gonna push things, and it could have gone really, really sour. It could have gone really south. We could have done things in a way that was shock and awe, in your face, gratuitous, and we didn't. We chose to stay reserved while also pushing. We chose to be responsible and really detail the graphic, nasty nature of violence and warfare, but we still maintain some semblance of comfortability. And maybe their goal was to make you super uncomfortable, but I wish they would have made me uncomfortable in more ways like Clean House, where I'm white-knuckled holding my breath, instead of uncomfortable like Hometown, where I'm not wanting to look, where I don't want to continue. I don't want to hide under furniture as a kid and stab an invader. I don't want to pick up a gun, see the kid's arms shaking, and then have to shoot people and think about just the emotional impact that would have on a young person. I don't want to see them kidnapped and taken, have their heads covered. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the last scene that involves a child where they're panicking and screaming and yelling and worried, and it's really realistic, I guess. It's really, showing you how brutal this can be, but I don't know that it's necessary, and I feel like, for me, it diluted what was being put forth as a wrecking ball of intensity and a tour de force of a campaign that said, hey, maybe it doesn't feel fun all the time, but it's going to be right there. It's going to be in your face. It's going to grab you. We're going to have great gameplay, incredible graphics, solid performances, great performance on the tech side, and just, hey, you may not find it, quote, fun, but it's going to be good, and it's going to stick with you because it's able to deliver intense moment after intense moment. It stays 11 out of 10, 11 out of 10, 11 out of 10. Even in the mission Highway of Death, where they give you like a little reprieve, you feel like, oh, kind of just scoping around with this sniper, waiting. That mission all of a sudden becomes insanely pressurized by rushing so many attackers at you, and then it ends with one of the biggest moments of the story, and you're like, okay, never mind, that wasn't even, they faked me out with a, quote, easier, more lax mission. No, that one started off like that, but then again cranked it way up to 11 or even 12 out of 10. They push you nonstop in the Modern Warfare campaign, and I just wish they would not have pushed violence and fighting, guns and knives, screaming and yelling, hurt and pain, worry and fear in children. Maybe that's kind of old school of me, Maybe that's silly of me, but that's how I genuinely feel. And if I have any problem with Modern Warfare, what I feel is a fantastic Call of Duty and an excellent single player, it's that I wish that they would have just drawn the line a little bit closer and not push things in this specific way. But I want to hear from you. Let me know your take in the comments down below. If you have played Modern Warfare's campaign, if you've watched Modern Warfare's campaign, how do you feel about Hometown? How do you feel about the campaign in general? Did you like the intensity? Did you think they handled most of it responsibly and with polish, prowess, and maturity? And did you feel like the stuff with the kids was too far, or you were okay with it? I'm genuinely curious to know how other people feel. I haven't really had a chance to talk to anybody. This is the first time I'm kind of bringing all my thoughts and feelings out there, so I want to hear from you, and it's totally okay if you feel differently or the same or whatever. Let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't seen the stuff in question, I've got a full walkthrough on the channel already. You can go look at it there. In the meantime though, thanks so much for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Modern Warfare is pretty special, and I'm glad that we got to play it. I'm glad they brought single player back. The rest we'll talk about another time. Until then though, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a fantastic day. Drink some hot chocolate. I love you a lot, and we'll see you all later.